Well, the good news is that my husband spent most of his meal saying, "This is delicious." So good call. The chicken was a very good, a real success. So I hope it will be with your husbands as well. Now we're going to get on with the pudding now. I've got my oven cooled down. It doesn't take very long at all to make. So I'm going to move over to my other camera, like that. Okay. So I've got my sugar and margarine in there, and I've got my 2 egg yolks here. I've got my milk and my flour and my lemon. However, unless you have 2 mixers, which I do, sorry to be flash, I've got 2 mixers. If I was you and you only had 1 mixer, I would mix my egg whites first. Because, and I know you all know this, there's 2 things to know about egg whites. They will not whisk if there is the tiniest scrap of grease, butter, margarine, or anything greasy anywhere near them, in the bowl, on the beaters, in anywhere, they won't work. The second thing, which many of you don't know, and as we live sort of in the countryside, and you may get your eggs, as I do, from someone up the road who keeps chickens, if they are very fresh, eggs will not whip into meringue. That's quite important, and lots of people don't know that, but a lot of people know that. So no, you can't have very fresh eggs. So if you go to your neighbour who has chickens and say, "Oh, can I have a dozen eggs?" and she says, "Oh, they've just been laid this morning," and you want to make anything meringue, they won't do. You've got to keep them for a day or 2. Okay, so that's another interesting fact, what I have told you. I'm going to whisk the whites first, because once you've whisked the rest, you've got to wash them. And if you've only got 1 set of beaters, it's easier to whisk the whites first, and then you don't have to wash them. You just put them straight into the butter and everything else. You can see that it's meringue. It's hot. It stays in the bowl if I tip it upside down. White mixer. Not don't want to waste it, you know me. So we're going to put these back in, or I could have used another mixer, but I'm not really sure. I'm going to put them back in. It'll be perfectly right to do this. Two egg whites, two yolks. I'm taking those out. I should have done it. Your 2 egg yolks, which I happen to have just working here. 2 egg yolks you're going to beat in. And you're going to stir in your flour. Now, what I need is a trusty knife to scrape all of this off here because we're not to lose any of it. We were watching cookery programs when I was young, and my mother was saying, look how much she's wasted. I guess it must have been Fanny Craddock who wasn't scraping her bowl and beater to my mother's requirements. But as I said last time, the thought of doing all of this with one of those old-fashioned, mixer egg whisks that you realise, it's just a nightmare. Okay, now I'm going to stir this in using a metal spoon because it won't knock so much of the air out as a wooden spoon was, because a wooden spoon is big and clunky. I'm just going to stir that flour in, all incorporated. And I'm going to add the rind and juice of 1 lemon. Here is 1 lemon. The rind is going in first. See the difference between the orange that I did this morning and the carrot cake? It's just come straight off. Doesn't have all that oil in it. Why it doesn't? Because they're both citrus fruits. I don't really understand it, but anyway, it doesn't. So take it from me. Well, you'll know for yourself once you've done this. So, that can just easily be scraped off. As I said before, I always use a pastry brush. Easier. And I just do it off with a pastry brush. Gets it all off a little bit on there. So that can be stirred in, and then I'm going to get the juice of this lemon. Squeeze that out. I'm going to save the pips because I'm going to make some jam. I'm planning to make some jam, and, as shown on one of the WI Zooms that I went on, and it was rhubarb, orange and ginger jam. It sounds wonderful. So I'm going to have a go because I've got a freezer with loads of rhubarb in. Bob tells me that our very own baby rhubarb is looking like it might need picking, which is great fun. So I'm going to make that. She also made, which I didn't know if I thought we might find rather fun. She made a tiramisu with rhubarb. Now, I don't like coffee, so I don't like tiramisu, but tiramisu with rhubarb looked and sounded wonderful. So I might even try that if you all think it's a good idea. Right, so there's my juice of my lemon. Put my pips over there because I might keep them. Right, so that stirs in. And then I've got to add the milk. And at this point, of course, this is all going to curdle and go horribly awful. Oh. Right, so I'm going to add the milk after this. And this is, do you remember when we made those of you who were with me at that time, we made ginger and lemon scones, which needed 1/4 pint of whole milk. I said I never buy whole milk because we only ever have skimmed milk, white water as my brother calls it. but I buy whole milk just to make the scones and freeze it. So guess what? In my freezer, I had a little quarter pint of whole milk, which I've defrosted. I'm just going to measure it to make sure it is a quarter pint. Looking for my measuring jug. Oh, just going to measure it and make sure I wasn't, over generous. Yeah, perfect. Quarter pint of whole milk. That's going to go in. To stir that in as well. I was busy putting all our baby plants in the summer house overnight because it's so cold. They're only little. Just putting them away. Right, I made a lot of a mess here. So finally, the lovely egg whites, which are still stiff. First of all, put a bit in. This is always good when you're adding egg whites to something, to put a little bit in to start with, to sort of break it in gently. Then you can gradually add the rest. Over here, I have my, I've already buttered my dish. So that's sitting ready. I'm just going to put some water in it to make my bain marie. So there's the rest of the egg whites going in. I was very glad that I got the eggs from the person who has real proper chicken eggs, because one of my neighbours has lovely bantam eggs, but guessing how many you want in the recipe is a bit tricky with the bantam eggs. I normally, if I am cooking and it's important, I do it by weight, because an egg, as you know, is normally a couple of ounces. But then the bantam's eggs are, they're not a particularly even weight, and it's quite tricky to know if you're using enough. So as you can see, I've cut most of that meringue into there. There's a few bits left. So we have this lovely lemony, gooey, sloshy sort of a mess. And we've got a dish, a pint and a half dish in what is going to be a bain marie. I haven't put the water in yet. So you're going to tip that into your dish. I'm going to put warm water around it. Boiling or anything, but it needs to be warm because it'll warm up in the oven, obviously. But it's not cold water, it's got to be hot, warm water around it. So put that, all that in that lovely dish there. Doesn't have to be, this sort of a dish could be Pyrex casserole or whatever you've got that's about a pint and a half. I'm going to, I'm going to run some water because my water comes very hot out of my tap. And if it does, it's quite hot enough. I'm just going to run some water here and get it hot. And then I'll put that to come in this dish, in this tin, just a roasting tin or something. Come about halfway up the side of your pudding basin or whatever your pudding dish. So as soon as that's hot, I'm going to pour that into there. My kettle's coming up to the boil as well, so I'll pour some water into there. Not quite enough. Got to lift it as well. Heavy for me. The way I'm going to, I'll probably drop the blooming thing. Right, there we are. That's halfway up that dish. And it's heavy, so do be careful. And I'm going to put that into my oven. In fact, I'm going to show you. I'm going to move my oven shelf down. I would have quite another one. I'm going to move my oven shelf down because the top one is a bit high and the bottom one's a bit low. So put it in the middle of the oven. for half an hour. Needless to say, I'm going to go away because you don't want to see me for half an hour, which is what I said last time, and you did. I was so sorry. So I'm going to turn that timer for half an hour, and I'll see you then. Meanwhile, I shall wash up. How I spend my life. Now, I think because the oven's been on quite a long time and been really hot, it's cooked now. This looks done now, even though it's got about 5 minutes to go. But I'm going to get it out and show you. If someone could change the camera for me. Sorry. Got his jammers on. There you ladies. So here it is. Lovely brown, golden brown, in its doodah, in its Bain Marie. I've got to lift it out of there, which is the easiest thing to do, it has to be said. I'm going to do that without getting my hand in boiling water. I think I'll serve it from there and sort it out in a minute. I just want to see you, so let you see me serve it out. We're going to have it with Greek yogurt, which is lovely because it just gives it a bit of sharpness. And look what we have here. Have a lovely, lovely light sponge with a gorgeous sauce underneath. Absolutely delicious. So one for one. Oh, I'm lovely. And that's all you have to do. Now, if you cook it longer, it gets a bit more done. Mine probably could have done with a bit longer, but it is delicious, and the sauce is what makes it. So enjoy. We're going to dollop some yogurt on that and go and eat it. So I hope you like it. It's very lemony. It's very lemony. It's lovely. Okay. That's the end of today's lesson. So enjoy, everybody. Enjoy. I'll see you in a fortnight. Bye.